1 in 7 people in the world, almost 1 billion, will go to bed hungry tonight.
It's the idea that people deserve food because they're here, not because they've done special things to deserve it, not because they have the right friends, not because they live in this country or that country or have so much money or not. They're here, so they get food, and that's our goal, is to figure out how to make that happen.
The world population grows by more than 200,000 people each day, all of whom must be fed.
But I'm also saying that if we're going to feed the population, the growing population, it has not stalemated, it has not decreased, we need to have a food supply. The only way you're gonna have that food supply is to either use lots of chemicals to kill off stuff that's gonna eat your food supply, or make a better food supply. And we don't have 10,000 years to make a better form of rice, of wheat, of corn. Until we can maintain the human population, there has to be a continued green revolution, or we just starve and we lose some of them.
The fight against hunger has been a persistent challenge for humanity, with millions of people around the globe suffering from food insecurity. But there was one man who believed that hunger could be defeated. His name was Norman Borlaug, and he changed the world.
We must continue to improve our technology if we are to keep pace with this growing demand for food, if we are to have a stable world. There's no turning back. When we talk about population growth, it is my hope that the growth will slow so that all who are born into this world we can provide with the basic necessities for a decent, humane life.
He was a scientist, he was an educator, he was a humanitarian, he was a politician.
I would say that he was a man that in one lifetime was able to change the history of the world because of his innovative practices with wheat and his ability to convince others to follow his lead.
His presence was enormous, but the man personally was so ordinary and common to talk to. He always is the same kind of person. He was an Iowan. He was an Iowan farmer. He was just the common man. If you meet him in a room, you wouldn't have a clue as to what this man has done for the world.
The motivation that Norman Borlaug had to do what he did, first of all, started when he was this boy growing up in the farm and learning that it took a lot of hard work. Back in the 1920s, they're farming with horses. And so he learned that hard work ethic. But there was just some things that happened that were kind of coincidental when he was going to school, and then he went on to the University of Minnesota. And those kind of things that happened throughout his life made him realize that he had a purpose.
Norman Ernest Borlaug was born on March 25th, 1914, and raised on a 106-acre subsistence farm west of Protivin, Iowa. He attended a one-teacher, one-room rural schoolhouse in Howard County, Iowa, until he reached the 8th grade. Borlaug spent his evenings from age 7 to 19 raising cattle, pigs, and chickens, as well as growing corn, oats, and timothy grass. As the only boy in his family, it appeared that his destiny was predetermined to continue working on the family farm. It was Borlaug's cousin who identified his exceptional potential to move beyond the limitations of his family's small farm.
He would have been expected to have about an 8th grade education, but since his cousin was his teacher at his one-room schoolhouse, she perhaps had a little bit more of an open relationship with his parents to encourage them to send him to higher education. So he did end up attending high school. They're losing a son who would, of course, been an important part of their farm's economy to attend high school, and he actually eventually attended college at the University of Minnesota.
Dr. Borlaug, when he was going to the University of Minnesota, he was going there during the beginnings of the Great Depression, and he saw the unrest that was in the streets from people that had lost their jobs, lost all their money, lost their money in the banks when the banks crashed. And he saw these soup kitchen lines where people are standing in line to get a free meal, much like the homeless people we have today. But that kind of changed him.
I think that was what impressed him as a young person, and probably why he accepted the job in Mexico, because he thought he could do something to help poor people. Becoming a great scientist wasn't his motivation. He loved plant breeding, but I think helping people, helping them improve their lives and livelihoods, that's what motivated him.
Norman Borlaug's pioneering work in plant breeding transformed agriculture. He created a variety of wheat that was resistant to rust, a disease that was devastating to cereal crops at the time. Due to Borlaug's efforts, millions of people who might otherwise have starved lived.
The most important aspects of his work was, of course, his crossbreeding techniques that he used in the wheat fields of Mexico that transformed the way agriculture was done, and it was the most important work of the time. And of course, he changed the whole course of wheat, especially. But he also worked with the other cereal crops, helping with rice and maize, corn, all those cereal crops throughout his life, because you've got to have that innovation before you can go take your seeds to the world.
The reason why he did what he did was because he saw a problem and he knew he had to try to fix it.
The revolutionary aspect of dwarf wheat was its adaptability to various climates and its strong resistance to rust. Its shorter, tougher stalk enabled it to mature faster. Borlaug accomplished this by cultivating 2 generations of wheat in different regions and elevations in Mexico, then crossbreeding them to produce a more disease-resistant wheat variety.
So, he wasn't in a lab doing this work. He was out in a field. He was comparing thousands of different types of wheat, taking note of characteristics, and by hand they were working on breeding there. So conventional breeding, not in a laboratory, but really taking what characteristics of the wheat he could to make it resistant to wheat rust.
In 1970, Borlaug was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his humanitarian efforts to provide food for a starving world.
So Borlaug got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970, not for his agricultural scientist work. It was for his humanitarian work of bringing the beginning of that green revolution, taking his technology and the seed that he had developed and gave it to the world. And that's what he was for his humanitarian work, bringing food to a starving world.
Having received the Nobel Prize, Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the Congressional Gold Medal, Norman Borlaug stands shoulder to shoulder with important figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and Mother Teresa.
I mean, when he got the Nobel Peace Prize, he was so shocked he didn't know. He wouldn't come in from the field. My mother went out to tell him that he had won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he said, "No, I didn't. That's just somebody calling and doing a joke." So he did not like to be noticed as far as that. He wasn't doing his work to be noticed. He was doing it because he wanted to save the world from starvation.
I said in 1970 when I met the press right after the Nobel Award, and they asked if this meant that the Green Revolution had solved all the world food problems, production problems for the future. I said this was ridiculous. I said all that this could do was to buy time, to bring into better balance population growth and our ability to provide the basics, to provide a decent standard of living to all who come on the stage of life. I think the results have been far better than I ever anticipated.
After winning the Nobel Prize in 1970, he wanted them to add basically a Nobel Prize for agriculture or food security or food insecurity, but that was going to be a slippery slope to creating, 27 new prizes or whatnot. So the Nobel Committee had elected not to add any additional prizes. So he spent the next 16 years working to help find sponsors and support to create a prize that would be similar in stature, get that same kind of recognition, but use it to recognize those that were working to help fight food insecurity and do other work in the field of agriculture and food around the world.
Like, he never kept any of the money. All that money went back into the World Food Prize. So, I don't know, he's such a humanitarian.
Norman Borlaug's connection to the World Food Prize is very significant. He is the founder of the World Food Prize. So the World Food Prize is set up to be an internationally acclaimed award to help recognize those who are working to fight food insecurity in any number of fields. So there's a strong association with plant science or crop science because of Dr. Borlaug, but really the goal of the prize is to put the fight against food insecurity on an international stage and award those that are working to help end food insecurity around the world, whether it's through science, policy making, or other work across any field that you can really make a strong connection to fighting food insecurity with. He lived into his 90s and he spent his entire career working to help fight food insecurity and bring these ideas of the Green Revolution. So modern agricultural equipment, irrigation, chemical fertilizers, and how all of this can help feed people. So we really are lessening the amount of people dying for basically what he would consider no reason, and emphasize that food is the moral right for everyone around the world were really the things that drove him and what inspired his career.
Norman Borlaug, who resided in northern Dallas during the final years of his life, passed away in 2009. But his legacy of global humanitarianism lives on through the efforts of organizations like the World Food Prize and the work of passionate individuals.
And you look what his legacy, or what legacy he developed, was he was able to go from that little farm, that one-room schoolhouse, and go on to change the world of bringing food to a starving world. But that was his greatest legacy, is to not ever stop in that. And he was working until his dying days doing that.
That is really what defined Borlaug's legacy. He's said to have saved over 1 billion lives. And, of course, now there's been another generation or two of people coming from that 1 billion who were saved. So who knows, how many people are present on Earth today as a result of Borlaug's work.
Despite the fact that Borlaug saved billions from starvation, many are still starving today. But the power to change this lies in the hands of each and every one of us.
If you were going to look at Borlaug and say, hey, what can I do? You can do great things. That's, to me, and I think that story is told every day through thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, all across the world.
But you can be part of the solution, whether that's giving of your money, your time, your resources, even just, talking to someone about it and about your ideas, about what they're doing.
You can make a change in your block. It doesn't have to be a world change.
I can do something in my own backyard, which is also helpful. So I think making people realize that you don't have to be an expert, you don't have to be a president or a prime minister. You can do something about this problem now, today, and that will make a big difference.